For the last 3 years, we've been involved in something called the Nunavut Arbute History Project. If we're talking about resource development, as a social worker, I'm very concerned about the social impacts of resource development, social and cultural impacts of resource development. And in order to cope with the kinds of impacts that these projects visit on Inuit communities, I think it's really important that people start from a position of health and well-being. In other words, it's all very well to prepare, for example, wellness reports after the fact, and then put in place, services to deal with some of the problems that are created by mining and other resource development projects. But it's more important to have something in place long before resource development happens. Doing it after the fact is obviously too late. And one of the areas that one of the things I've always been concerned about as someone who's interested in and has written a bit about Inuit social history is the impact of what I call just straightforward a colonial history on Inuit health and well-being. And I've always been concerned about the extent to which young people know and understand not just Inuit culture, but what I call Inuit social history. Because knowing where you come from, knowing in New Zealand where I worked for a number of years, the Maori call it turangawaiwai. It literally means the dirt beneath my feet or the dirt beneath my toenails. Knowing where I stand, knowing the ground that I stand on. In other words, knowing my history, knowing my culture, knowing who I am is really, really important to mental health. And there's lots of research been done on this. And of course, this is a huge problem when you have the phenomenal disruption and changes in the colonial history that John referred to, visited upon people. What happened after the Second World War, for example, up until and into the 1970s. So this Nunavut project, and I'm going to turn over to Jordan to talk about it, but this Nunavut project was a project where we tried to bring elders and young people together to re-examine and to reinterpret from an Inuit perspective Inuit history and culture, to make sense of it, to get in touch with it, and to do something more than that. Once you have that kind of knowledge, once you have that kind of confidence, once you have that kind of strength, my hope is and my belief is that people are then in a better position to act, because the issues we're talking about around mining, impacts of mining, environmental and social, are really, and climate change, as far as I'm concerned, are issues related to social justice. And of course, Sheila Cloutier made that point really nicely with the case that she tried to bring before the Inter-American Tribunal.